As the name of a lab already suggests, this lab is a lab you can easily take with you to measure people's EEG in nearly every possible location. One important reason why this is possible is that we are using an ActiCap system with active electrodes. As you can see in this picture, the mobile lab consists of 2 laptops, one for the EEG recordings and one for the experiment, an active electrode set with 32 electrodes, an amplifier, and a lot of different EEG equipment. So let me show you how to perform an EEG measurement with this equipment. Before putting on the EEG cap, you want to do 2 things. First of all, you have to clean the skin at the points for the facial and must-to-eat channels. To do this, I use new prep and gently brace the skin of my participant. Because I decided that in my setup I'm using a linked reference placed on the must-eat bones behind both ears, I'm cleaning these 2 points as well. The second thing you have to do before putting on the cap is measuring the size of the participant's head to be able to pick the right size of a cap. After finding the right size of a cap, you simply apply this to the participant's head and firmly close it under his chin. However, even though it is fairly simple to apply the cap, you have to make sure that it has been placed in the right position and the electrodes are all placed at the corresponding spots on the scalp. The caps that we are using with this lab are made according to the International 1020 system. This is the most widely used method to describe the placement of the electrodes at specific intervals along the head to ensure standardized reproducibility. For proper EEG cap placement, the C-set electrode needs to be at the center of the head. To center the C-set electrode, you simply measure the distance between the nasion, which is the spot just above the nose between the 2 eyebrows, and the inion, which is the little bulb at the end of someone's scalp. The C-set should be right in the middle of those 2. Furthermore, you need to measure the distance between both ears and again center the C-set right in the middle. If C-set is not yet in the right position, you can easily adjust the position of the cap. After the proper placement of the cap, I have to apply the holders for the EEG electrodes. I am using 2 vertical EEG electrodes beneath and above the left eye and 2 horizontal EEG electrodes next to each eye. I am doing this to be able to pick up both vertical and horizontal eye movements I can correct for in my offline analysis. In the next step, I am filling every single of the 32 electrode holders with conductive EEG gel. This gel will make it possible to make a connection between the scalp and the metal plates of every electrode, even though the participant's hair seems to be in the way. To make sure that I am not using too much gel, I simply press down the holder and never use more gel than fitting into the openings. After applying the EEG gel, you can start to apply the electrodes. You do that by simply pressing the different electrodes to the corresponding holders. I always start with the ground and the reference electrode. Without these 2 electrodes, you could simply not measure any EEG. So you want to make sure that these 2 are applied properly. After applying those two electrodes to the spots that you chose, you can start to apply the normal electrodes. Before entering the control box, the cables of the electrodes are all connected to a so-called splitter box, which is integrating all the single cables to one flat cable. Before applying the single electrodes to the cap, I therefore want to attach this box to the participant's shoulder to try to prevent any dragging of the electrode cables during the experiment. Now you have to apply every single electrode to the corresponding spots in the cap. This is a fairly easy task. You just have to fit the numbers of the electrodes to the numbers in the cap and gently push the electrodes into the electrode holders. However, you should never simply trust the numbers of any random cap, because someone could have easily changed them. Before starting your experiment, you should therefore always check if the numbers of the cap are at the right spots as you have defined in your workspace. Even though applying the electrodes to the cap is quite an easy task, it is very time-consuming. This is one important reason why you should always consider if using more electrodes does actually add something concerning the quality of your experiment. The next step after applying the electrodes is to make sure that they actually connect to the scalp of the participant. To find out if this is the case, you simply turn on the impedance measure on the control box. Now the lights on the electrodes will show you if the single electrodes can already make any connection. As you might already guess, the red lights you can see here are telling you that there's no connection yet. To connect the electrodes to the scalp, I am now using an applicator filled with some more EEG gel and a blunt needle attached to it. Using this blunt needle, I can get through the little hose of the electrodes and can clear the hair underneath for easy access to the scalp. If necessary, I can also apply more gel. There's two channels that you want to focus on first, again the ground and the reference. After successfully connecting these two channels, you can go on with connecting the rest of the electrodes. The goal of this procedure is to not see any more red lights telling you that all the electrodes are connected. When all the electrodes are connected, it's time to have a look at the quality of your signal. If you are satisfied with the quality of your signal, you can start with your experiment while recording live brain activity. After finishing your experiment, you can easily take off the eye electrodes and remove the EEG cap without having to remove all the electrodes before. Just open the cap under the chin and carefully pull off the cap. The last steps are to remove the splitter box and the eye electrode holders, and you can send your participant home. Afterwards, you can take your time to clean all your equipment.